What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and Happy New Year. This is the first official full week of 2026, which is super exciting. Today, I figured I'd film a simple training vlog and then give you some thoughts on the IPF rule changes. I'll be honest with you, I haven't thoroughly read all of them and I don't totally understand or know about everything going on with the IPF, but I do have some thoughts. I do have some perspectives and opinions on what's going on, both at the micro level, meaning the rules themselves, but also at the macro level, what this means for the sport. All right. But first, we'll run through training. Nothing crazy today. I have some simple bench work and then some accessories. I'm going to be here in the dungeon. And I'm going to be honest with you, man, like lately, I've really been enjoying training alone. I've always kind of enjoyed training alone, not really being around other people. It's nothing against other people. It's more about me, not about them. It's just me being able to lock in, focus, and not be really bothered, you know, kind of conserve my energy, not really have to talk to anyone and make up bullshit in my head to try and entertain people. Like, I don't want to have to deal with all that. I want to lock in, train, focus, and that's it. And although my equipment is somewhat limited down here, because of today's training, I can kind of get away with it. Also, too, we finally got some dumbbells, which you'll see in a moment, but they only go up to like 50 pounds. That said, this is the 5th week of our 5-week block, which means I need to pull back on my accessories anyway. Again, it all kind of worked out today. So I'm gonna be training here in the basement, and then afterwards we'll talk about some of my thoughts on the IPF rule changes. But yeah, all right, let's get set up and let's do it. So I'm currently in the process of looking for a new place to move to. And right now I live in New Jersey. And so I'm looking for a place, I mean, well, to be honest with you, if it were up to me, I'd go somewhere much warmer, whether it be California or Florida. I don't know if I'd go to Austin. I don't love Texas that much, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's just too flat for me, and the pizza is freaking terrible there. But California, I actually really did enjoy my time in California. It's just the weather. The weather is so hard to beat. And but at the same time, I love the energy of the East Coast, especially being born and raised here. It's hard to pass that up. So Florida is like a nice little middle ground. The Carolinas seem to be like a nice middle ground between Florida and New York. You know, you kind of get that. It's hard, man. It's a tough decision, especially because I can kind of work from anywhere and my network is all over. My girlfriend, however, she works in Westchester, so she's kind of rooted here, and obviously her family's here, my family's here. We are looking for places in the area, in the tri-state, basically. The hardest part is gyms, you know, like I'm looking for gyms that are ideally walking distance from the apartment, but then have all the accessory equipment and a minimum of course, competition plates and competition bars. Pluses is combo. Perfect scenario for me, truthfully, would be a Lico combo rack and a Lico bar, because I've never been able to train on that equipment. And 90% of the competition that I have that are all doing really, really well, they all get to train on that stuff. I'm not one to think that it makes that big of a difference. I'm not an equipment snob. Like, I grew up loving the grind and the grit of grungy equipment and shit, and this is great. This is not grungy, all right? But my point is, I love the aesthetic even of just going into this like shithole of a gym and working your ass off in that environment. Maybe you don't have the best plates, but that just gives you that extra edge mentally, right? At the same time, you can't deny the fact that having competition equipment, like the literal equipment you will be competing on, you can't deny that having that on a day-to-day for months on end isn't gonna help you. Like, you can't deny that, right? So of course it's gonna help you. And so I've just been thinking about that. There's no gyms near me that have any of the Alico stuff. So I was thinking about investing in it, but to be honest with you, it's too expensive, dude. Like, to pay over $6 grand for a combo rack, like, that's absurd. That's absurd. I'm sorry, that is fucking absurd. A barbell, their bars are $1,200. I'm not knocking or denying the quality of it, but an Ohio Power Bar is $250. If the Alico bar was like $850, $650, I'd be like, okay. But $1,200, dog, for a barbell? Trying to get some blood flow into the pecs, the triceps, the shoulders. Ugh. And then, although it kind of sucks to do it when I'm cold, like literally cold, it's freezing down here. Try and get some pull-ups in as well. Open up the shoulders and the pec minor while also getting the back warm. But yeah, so, you know, it would be nice. It would be nice. Perfect scenario for me would be to be in a nice spot, nice apartment that makes me feel alive, makes me feel motivated to win. A 1x5 RP7. And last week we took 175. All right. So we'll take this as the last warm up, and then we'll go to top set. If I had to guess, we'll probably take 177 or 180. We'll see how we feel. Try to stay as close to the RP as I can, but I can't stand RP, especially for things like bench. Deadlift is the only one that I'd be okay with it, but bench and squat. Might take these with my closer grip just to feel a little bit more stacked. I've been practicing the soft touch more and more, just in case I have to revert to it in competition because of the new upper body thrusting rule thing, but we'll talk about that later. All right, let's load the top set. Truthfully, my bench was going amazing, and then I almost feel like we like literally peaked it, and then for the past like 2 or 3 blocks, slowly going back down, and what I'm hoping is going to the next 2 blocks, we can rebound it. But I don't know, man, I don't know. I just try and follow what I'm told, you know, and yeah, try and be as accountable to my variables as I possibly can be. All right, so we've got a 1x5 at -5 to 8% drop, and then a 2x6 at another % drop, and then we have our accessories. So yeah, we'll bang this out and we'll be on our way. On most of my bench work, especially back downs, I give myself around 5 minutes or less. If I have straight working sets that are pretty heavy, I'll give myself that 5 to 8 minutes. But the only time I really allow for that up to 8 minutes is on top sets, or, you know, obviously like really heavy top sets. So primary single, and it's above what would be like an RP7, RP8, or if I'm, you know, trying to take anything over, let's say like 475 or something like that. Or 210 or 215 in kg. Last set of 6. Okay, now normally I'd go from this to, on Tuesdays I like to do incline dumbbell, incline close grip. Since I'm here in the basement, I do have the incline bench over there, but I think this is already loaded, so it makes a little bit more sense to flip it and just do some flat super close grip, and then go and do some incline dumbbell. And then I'll do the incline super close grip on Thursday. Yeah, I don't think it really makes that big of a difference, especially because we really can't go too hard on these movements anyway this week, since this is a week 5, or really just the final week of the block. So first set here will be super close grip with 2 reds. I don't know what this is. And it's kind of an AMRAP, but again, because we're not really supposed to be pushing these super hard this week, probably stop at like 2 to 3 RAR, maybe. I don't know, we'll see. It's hard to judge like what's true failure on these when I know if somebody's spotting me. Probably had like another 2, maybe 3 there. The goal of this movement, I started incorporating these like 4 months ago on both, well, first was flat, and then I started doing it on incline as well. But my concept of it, or my thought process for it was, I wanted a movement that would be a compound movement, number 1. Number 2, I could really load up over time. Number 3, would develop the portion or the type of movement pattern. So the portion of the movement or the type of movement pattern I'd need for my actual bench press, this right here. And unfortunately, I just think tricep extensions just don't do it enough. Great for building size. Yes, you can, as a result of the hypertrophy, have some strength adaptation, but I just think there's something special about this here, being in here and having to extend at the elbow this way, especially when you're pushing a lot of weight. Also too, you get a little bit of a pec. That sounded retarded. You get a little bit of pec, you get a little bit of delt, and yeah, and I like it. So I also think it's done wonders for my hypertrophy on my tricep. Like, I feel like the horseshoe is really starting to develop, and it's very rare that we do accessories for our triceps that put us in this position, right? Think about that, like pushing weight and extending this way like this. A lot of times we're here, sure, but you're pulling something down, right? Even if it's a cable and you're pushing, like it, and some people will say like, oh, well then do a dip. 2 problems with the dip. Number 1, you're here. Very different than being here. Number 2, I find there are a lot of limiters when it comes to dips. Wrist pain, shoulder pain for a lot of athletes. Your ability to really load the movement over time and make that type of progress. Position, right? You can do them here like this. You can do them here like this. I mean, there's all these different weird things that come into play with weighted dips that slowly will make triceps and the tricep involvement obsolete. Like it's just all these like things. So my point is, this movement has really helped. And sorry if that explanation was just not good, but yeah, your boy is out of breath because he's fat. So we're gonna strip this down to 1 red. In terms of how I push this throughout like a prep, the goal is always to AMRAP. The goal is the tricep, like the muscle. The goal is not the movement. It's not to maximize load, okay? The only reason why I care about adding load at some point is because I still need to stick to the principle of progressively adding load, right? In order to get stronger and see some sort of adaptation, to make sure that we're making progress. But you can aim for more reps. You can aim for tempoing certain reps with a certain weight. You can aim for pausing. I mean, there's so much shit that you can do to make sure that you are adding some progression to the movement. But yeah, so I usually start off with, let's say like 1 rep on week 1 and just build my way up. And I don't have to do it across all 3 sets. Maybe I'll do it for 1 set, maybe I'll do it for 2 sets, maybe I'll do it for all 3 sets in terms of the weight that I use, you know? But yeah, usually about 3 sets. And again, on incline, same thing, that same position. And lastly, people will ask me like, well, why don't you come all the way down? It's because there's no fucking point. Like when I'm stopping, it's because my forearm has completely compressed against the bicep. Like it can't really go back further, right? So I'm not getting any more elbow flexion here. And remember, the tricep is gonna extend the elbow. So that's what I'm working. So like the moment that this stops, what's the point in pushing it down? This is just gonna fuck everything up in here, really. And there's a rate of diminishing returns as well, because even if I can push myself into this position, what's really getting worked here? How much am I really gaining from that? I kind of allow my body to naturally stop where the elbow flexion has kind of just been maximized, you know, more or less. So if that's like right here, boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Normally I AMRAP like 70 to 80, you know, when I'm in prep.
I start pulling back on the load when it comes to the dumbbell pressing, especially, or any really like chest pressing, machine pressing, anything like that, because I find it's just not really worth it. It just adds to the fatigue overall without really getting much reward out of it. All right, I'm fat. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm fat. All right, well, we gotta show the physique at least a little bit. Hold on. All right. Like I said, a little fat. But look at that. Really get to stretch across the delt. So you can combine meathead aggression and hard guts training with biomechanics and intellectual design. Battery's on 2%, it's wonderful. That's why I got the Osmo Pocket 3, because apparently that battery life is crazy. One battery can last you for the whole day, or at least half a day, and charges in 20 minutes, okay? This fucking battery burns out. Like, I go through one battery an hour on the Sony a7 IV. It's crazy. So hopefully I have another battery that's charged. Otherwise, this video will be to be continued. Fortunately, my camera died, so we're gonna have to finish this video on my iPhone. But yeah, I made lunch. We've got 8 ounces of smoked salmon, very, very light amount of light mayo, small drizzle of lemon, and this is about 78 grams of sourdough toast. So this is gonna be lunch. I very rarely have something as fatty as salmon, but the micronutrients, hard to pass up. We had it in the fridge, it needed to be used up. So this makes sense to me. I'll just have something much leaner later tonight. But of course, these are also healthy fats. You know what I mean? It's very different than like a McDonald's burger type fat. As promised, I wanted to touch on some of the IPF rules. And again, to be honest with you, I have not done a whole lot of research on every single thing that came out about it. The biggest one is, of course, the upper body thrusting in the bench press. The second biggest one is going to be the celebrations, or I think people are taking that to an extreme. From what I read, the rule states they don't want people acting in a way or behaving in a way that would be harmful to the integrity of the sport, whatever that means. The problem is that statement came right after the other new rule about not being able to step over the bar after finishing a deadlift, which every athlete has done. Every athlete, and not on purpose even. It's just, you drop the deadlift, it's the third of the meet, so you go to shake the hands of the judges and thank everyone, you step over the bar naturally instead of walking around it. Who the fuck would do that? And so it's very weird. So that came after that, which means that they're probably alluding to some degree of celebration, right? They don't want you approaching the crowd and getting amped up and having fun. Yeah. The other rule was chains. Chains need to be tucked away, not visible whatsoever. Very strange. Another rule had to do with hair, needed to be essentially not obstructing the view of the judges. Okay, so which to a degree makes sense, but like the only movement I could imagine that being an issue with is going to be deadlifts, not deadlifts, bench. But even then, it's a stretch. And yeah, so hair needs to be braided and done up and all that stuff, which I feel bad for girls because most guys don't have hair long enough for it to have to be braided, or put up or something like that. But for most women, like maybe you want to be able to squat or deadlift with a ponytail. I don't know. Like to me, it's just kind of weird to request that of athletes, demand that of athletes rather. The other rule that I remember is the one about the bar. When you squat, the bar has to be above the rear delt. So it can't be on or below, or maybe it's just below the rear delt. This kind of makes sense. They're probably trying to eliminate like the French low bar squat. So, you know, whatever. I'm assuming that that's what it is. There were some things about like grip and stuff like that on the bar, but not much there has changed. And I think that's it. There's a couple of other pieces that I'm probably missing, but that's the core of it. Now, my opinion on this whole thing. Well, first and foremost, I want to be clear, I don't totally understand the process. I don't know the sport well enough or at least the back end of the sport well enough to know how all this stuff works, meaning who's involved in the decision-making processes. Does this stuff get voted in? Does there need to be majority? Like, how does this work, right? Does stuff get submitted? Because the way I see it is it's just the wild, wild west. The IPF decides whatever the fuck they want to do, and then they just do it, and everybody else has to suffer the consequences. That's how it comes across to, just your typical athlete, right? A paying member. I highly doubt that's the case, because in any professional organization, especially one that's even semi-legitimate, you're going to have, yes, a governing body, but it's democratic to the degree that people elect the people in that position, and there's a checks and balances. People who elected them have to kind of keep them accountable, right? And it's this relationship, this give and take. And then there's people below that, right? So it'd be like all of the thousands of members of the IPF, the federations from each country that are representatives of those members, and then the IPF, right, which is like the ultimate. But there's decision-making that happens across all three levels, I would imagine, right? Again, this is just my best guess. The problem is that those rules came right at the beginning of the new year. Nobody knew what was going on. Even the referees, and I'm friends with like some of these referees who are really high-level referees, international level referees. They had no idea these rules were coming out. So it's just strange. It's just a really weird behavior. This is the second time I've seen this happen. Third, really, if you count the elbow depth rule. But the second time I've seen something abrupt happen like this that is very, it's concerning. The first one was the super stiff knee sleeves being banned. Whether you're for or against it is irrelevant. It's how that was done. Not only did they violate contracts with companies who paid a lot of money to have their stuff approved and to be allowed to be used by athletes, not only did they violate those contracts, but like they did it at a very weird time, and then they went back on it, and it was just, Again, it's concerning, and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not calling anything out on the IPF. I'm not, whatever. But I have to be honest with you. The truth is this. If it rattles like a snake, if it hisses like a snake, if it moves like a snake, if it slithers like a snake, it's probably a snake. I'm not saying the IPF is a snake. I'm just saying that in a lot of situations, trust people to be who they are. Period. Okay? I think it would be very naive to assume that everyone is acting out of innocence. Everyone is acting with the best of intentions, right? And the best of intentions for the athlete and for the people involved. I don't buy that for one fucking second. Every single organization in this world is corrupt to some degree. Every organization. We're human. That's the whole purpose. That's like literally the premise of original sin, right? And that's the whole thing about generational curses and that feedback loop that happens and how sin leads to more sin and more sin because he hurt me. Now I mean like that's how this all works. So it'd be asinine to assume that there isn't some degree of what is going on here happening here, okay? That said, it's not my place to judge that, to make assumptions on that, to convince people of that. That's not why I'm here. I'm only saying it because I'm sharing my perspective, my opinion. I think it's a little fishy. I think it's strange that these rules will come out. And now here's the other piece to it that is a little concerning. IPF comes out with that. Sheffield is just weeks away. Now, Sheffield is the meat of meats when it comes to celebration, when it comes to wearing chains, and we'll call it marketability. It is the meat of meats when it comes to marketing the sport. Why? Well, because it's a massive show. I mean, SPD puts tons of money into it. They're really trying to prop up the athletes, but why? Because they want to make money. Yeah, I'm sure they care about the growth of the sport, but they care about the growth of the company. They want to make money, period. That's what a business does. They want to make money. And there's nothing bad about that, by the way. That's not ill-intentioned. It's a good thing. If they can make money, they can continue to fund things in the sport. They're putting on the meat. People can win money there. It's exposure for athletes. Like, it's a win-win pretty much all around. But the point is, it's about profit. It's about making money. So these new rules that the IPF put out kind of fucks things up for Sheffield. Because the art of Sheffield, what makes Sheffield so amazing, is partly the personality of every athlete there. Because it's a stage, guys. It's a performance. It's not just lifting weights now. It's also a show, and some people disagree with that. Some people think lifting weights should just be robotic and just lift weights and have no personality and blah, blah. Fine, fine. I disagree with that. I think that you're a human being. I mean, it's an entire experience. Part of what makes lifting weights so much fun is because it's a way for you to express yourself as an athlete, as a person. And the IPF kind of took a little bit of that away with these new rules. Well, guess what? At Sheffield, that's not going to fly. So my guess is Sheffield, who is a exclusive partner, I believe, maybe exclusive is the wrong word to use, but I know they're a very high-paying partner of the IPF. They probably put some pressure on the IPF to say, yeah, guys, you ain't fucking doing that. Not yet. You want to do it after Sheffield? Sure. But you ain't going to do it fucking now. So that's my assumption. That's my guess as to why they then just went back on some of those rules that are going to get reinstated. So they put in rules. Now they're going to hold off on putting them in until after Sheffield, basically. March 1st is when they're going to put them in, which of course is conveniently just a few days before the beginning of Nationals, USA Nationals. So, it's just, look, again, I'm not here to argue about what's going on behind the scenes. All I'm saying is that as an athlete who has to deal with this stuff, it's like, guys, either these rules matter or they don't. Either these things were created for the betterment of the sport or they weren't. If they were, then why are you going back on them? Right? Like there should be why? And also, by the way, there should be, I get it, people make mistakes, but this is not the first time that this has happened where rules have been instated or have been implemented or decisions have been made and then they've had to go back on that. It's like, I get it, mistakes will be made, but when there's a pattern of behavior, you have to call it into question. Maybe the system needs to be fixed. The system through which we make decisions, the system through which we decide on rules for the sport should be tweaked so that we have less of these quote unquote mistakes. Because that's how I see them. I see them as mistakes. If you have to go backwards, take a step backwards and say, okay, hold on guys, we'll wait to do this. Then chances are you either didn't think it fully through or you did it. You did think it through, you did it. And then people were like, yeah, you're out of your fucking mind. And so you had no choice. Your hands were forced into saying, you know what, okay, we still stand by this, but we won't do it yet. To me, again, that obviously wasn't like your intention, right? Your intention was to just implement it and then people have to deal with it. So, okay, I don't want to run on here, but point is, I think the whole situation is just a little sketch and I don't love the fact that, don't get me wrong, I don't fuck with the rules. Like I don't like the rules. I personally am a little bit more wild than I think other athletes and people know that about me. I didn't get into the sport because I love powerlifting. On sport because I love training. I love strength training. I wanted a hard metric to compare myself to. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be a world champion and powerlifting happened to be my vehicle to do so, period. Now in that process, I've fallen in love with the sport. I've fallen in love with some of the people in the sport, some of the culture, right? And there's good eggs and bad eggs in every sport, right? And the reality is I can cast judgment on the sport and be like, oh, this sucks or whatever. The sport can turn around and cast judgment on me and say that I'm a jerk and say I'm a dick and all this other stuff. And I'm sure a lot of that might be true, So I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to talk shit about anything or anything like that. The point that I'm trying to make here is that I fell in love with pieces of the sport and people in the sport as I got into it. And so I'm not coming at it from this angle of like, well, there should be no rules and it's all about, no, dude, like I actually am for some regulation. Like I am for checks and balances, a quality system, but there needs to be checks and balances. There needs to be accountability. There needs to be transparency. There's none of that. What time is it? Oh yeah, we got time. And so it's just very frustrating to me, especially because I feel like, again, dude, I give a lot to the sport. Like I do a lot of work to grow the sport, especially through social media. And it's a blessing, it's a blessing to be able to do what I do. And I'm not naive to that. I'm not ungrateful for it. But at the same time, like I pay my dues. Like you don't pay me. You don't do anything really for me other than maybe organize the meets, and which is great. I'm not ungrateful for that. But that's part of like the job, right? I mean, like that's one of the reasons why you get paid. So it's like, it's hard to feel like I'm being looked out for. It's hard to feel like I'm being taken care of by the federation, that's all. Especially when there's rules like the chain thing and like the celebration thing or acting, in a way that's harmful to the integrity of the sport. Like define that, like at least like give us something. There's so much here to unpack that's like, bro, what are we talking about? Like if you're gonna do this, fine. Like I'm not even against it. Like I want you to make the decisions that you think are best. You've been elected, like that's fine. Whatever, I'm not gonna leave. Like I value the fact that I get to have a true world championship. I value the fact that we have a path to Sheffield. I value all of that stuff. But you guys aren't putting money in my pocket, right? You guys aren't, and in fact, in a lot of ways, especially because of Article 14, you're taking food off my plate. You're telling me what I can and can't do, where I can and can't go, which is, to me, that's a whole nother conversation. But at least have the decency and respect to hold my hand and walk me through it. right? It's kind of like that, like, I know this is a very abrasive way to say this, but it's like, at least wine and dine me before you fuck me kind of thing. It's just, at least tell me what you're gonna do and why you're doing it. And even if I don't agree with it, at least I can respect the fact that you are coming to me face to face and saying, look, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. You may not like it. You may not agree with it, but this is it. At least I can respect that. But this like under the table, hidden secret shit, that's how it feels to me. I just don't like it, man. I just don't like it. But regardless, in terms of the rules themselves, let's talk about that. So the bench one, you know, I really don't know what to say because again, I don't know what is upper body thrusting. Like I don't know what that is because as far as I knew, heaving was always not allowed. And I'm pretty sure heaving is like this, right? Heaving, like that, right? That motion. So what's the difference between that and upper body thrusting? I don't know. There must be a difference because now they're talking about upper body thrusting not being allowed. Some people are alluding to the fact that, well, because of the elbow depth rule, what athletes started to do is as they brought that bar down, they started to like let the chest kind of compress. And then to kind of make it look like the shoulders were higher a little bit than the elbow. And then as soon as they got the press command, they would come back, right? I mean, who's judging this? Like, how are you going to keep, and even if you can judge it, how is it going to be consistent, dude? Like, my mind cannot wrap around how ridiculous this is getting because from an athlete perspective, it's extremely frustrating. I work my fucking ass off. All of this work, all the blood, sweat, tears, everything, the money, everything to get here, to have this one opportunity to at least make it fair. And what makes it fair is consistent judging, quality judging, and we're losing that. And so it's so hard to me to understand the fact that we already don't have that. So now we're just gonna add more fucking vague rules, more shit. It's like, what are we, this disincentivizes me as an athlete. This makes me feel like, why would I support, like why would I now be motivated to go compete when I know that I could work my ass off, legitimately actually earn my win, but not actually get it due to inconsistent judging, poor judging, political bias, all of this stuff, right? Like it's crazy to me. And so it makes it so frustrating. It was just like the protest and other lifters lift thing, right? I was young. I still stand by it because I still believe it's true, but I should have taken a different approach about saying that, you know, I think it's a bitch move to protest and other lifters lift, right? Well, Sheffield, the first Sheffield, my squat got protested, right? And that's why it was overturned. And it took them a long ass time. I mean, another lifter was basically lifting, and that's when they overturned it, which I'm pretty sure is against the rules, but whatever, of course. Anyway, point that I'm trying to make is shortly after that, the IPF says, okay, we're gonna get rid of this ability to protest other lifters' lifts because it's getting out of hand. It was always out of hand. It was always dumb, but they just happened to catch up to it, right? So my point is this, it's like that. Like as an athlete, it's so frustrating because I'm literally willing to jump through hoops to get the A, but now you're making it so that the A is not even possible. And that's very frustrating because so much of my credibility, of my authority, of my identity will literally not ride upon my own strength and my own execution. It'll ride upon your opinion, your bias, your human error, your perspective. Like what happens if I celebrate after a lift and you deem it as harmful to the integrity of the sport? What happens? Do I miss the lift? Do I get my total thrown out? Like what happens? What are the consequences? Do you see how bad this can get and how that's why it's dangerous? Because 90% of the population, I'd say even more, are like sheep and they will just, yes, master, whatever you say, yes, master. I see it everywhere. If people don't start standing up and saying something, it's just gonna get worse and worse and worse and worse. Now the problem is like, how do you do that? Because as an athlete, you will jeopardize your own ability to do well in this sport if you're literally bucking the system that creates your success. And that's where we're getting, guys. Like that is the line that we are walking along. It's very thin. So it's a dangerous, slippery slope, man. I mean, like even what I'm saying now could make people feel like, oh yeah, screw Gavin, whatever. And I understand, but I want to be clear. I really do want the best for the sport. I really do want the best for the athletes. I just really hope that I don't know, man. I think it's hard because the top athletes will be demotivated, will be de-incentivized because again, it will get to a point where it's like, what am I really getting out of this? Other than my own volition, my own ambition to become a world champion in powerlifting, like what am I really receiving here? You know? And make no mistake, this is a fucking transaction. I came here for something. You know, you're not my mom. You're not my girlfriend. You're not my sister. You're not my brothers. You're not even my best friend. So what, come to the table with something. Like that's how business is done. And at this point, it's getting to a point where it's becoming very difficult to do business. And that's what I'm afraid of. I'm not leaving the IPF. I love competing. I love the opportunities it has given me. And I'm not saying that the IPF is at that point yet, but it will get there if this continues. So again, the bench rule, and now that I ran off on a fucking tangent, the bench rule is strange. I'm not really sure what to make of it. Again, I will be just kind of soft touching from now on just to kind of make sure that I clear my bases. I don't know if I'm hitting elbow depth or not. I don't even know how you judge that. My delts are massive. I don't know what to say about that. Squat one about the delts thing, that one is fine. Like, I don't really care, honestly. I think you should make that adjustment regardless as a lifter just for safety reasons. But like, again, to me personally, I'm all about just being strong, dog. Like, if you want to maximize your levers, like, go for it. You know what I mean? Like, more power to you. Some people may say, well, it makes things unfair, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, but like what seems to be an advantage for this person is actually a result of them actually being at a disadvantage and them having to maximize something. And so that's what came of that, right? Nobody is born thinking like, let me just fucking bench like this. Like nobody wants to do that. But because of the sport and because there are a lot of people who have a lot of mass, who can move a lot of weight, they say, okay, well, you know what? I don't have the genetic potential, let's say, to build tons and tons of stacked muscle, or maybe my arms aren't short enough to be able to have that nice, tight, really strong press. Instead, I'm going to have to, opt in for internally rotated, crazy thoracic mobility and do that. Like, you're going to find your strengths where you can. And that's life, guys. That's life. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's bad. But the moment you start to try and police every little difference, it's like, you're now optimizing the sport for one particular body type or one particular type of person. That's ridiculous. Humans are different. Let's celebrate that, not fucking penalize that. So that's a rare take, by the way. Most people would feel differently. Like, I don't give a shit. If you want to pull sumo, pull conventional, fine. Like, I don't care. Like, do whatever you want. I'm here to win. I will do whatever it takes for me to win within ethical bounds. So, like, I expect you to do the same. And in fact, I would feel insulted if you didn't, because then that means you think you can beat me not at your best, not maximizing yourself. So yeah, the art of powerlifting is maximizing your leverages. That's part of it, guys. It's not just about muscle. It's not just about strength. It's not just about peaking and programming strategy and game day strategy. It's partly maximizing your levers. Okay, and so that's very real. That's a very real piece of the game. In terms of the chain thing, again, I think that's just dumb. Like, I don't really get the safety stuff behind it. I think it's really special to see personality and expression come from athletes, especially because like chains I've worn, it's chains that have been gifted to me by people I love, people I care about. They came with very, very personal notes, and they remind me of things. They just mean a lot to me. And I also think, like, fuck you. Like, with all due respect, who are you to tell me what I can and cannot wear around my neck and whether or not people can see that? I will wear that shit proudly. Like, and that's just how I feel. Like, if I have a cross, if I have Jesus Christ hanging from my neck, or at least a symbol of him, who are you to tell me to hide that? Because it makes you feel uncomfortable? What? Who are you to say that? What? It's so, to me, like, as an American, it's so unconstitutional. I get it, guys. Like, there's no room for disrespect. There's no room for vulgar stuff, stuff that is obviously not okay. But we're talking about a leadership that, like, prostitution was involved and all sorts of shit, and you're worried about athletes having a poor reflection of or creating a poor reflection of the sport. Like, what, dude? Like, oh my goodness. Anyway, I'm gonna get myself into trouble. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to make here is that I don't agree with that. What else? The celebration thing, again, dumb. Stepping over the bar, the only thing I could say to that is that it could be dangerous. You could trip over the bar, but that doesn't really happen. And that's also the reason. They didn't state that as the reason. They stated that as, again, the reason why they don't want people stepping over the bar is because it might be harmful to the integrity of the sport in terms of the perception of it. And I think that that's asinine. Getting out from under the bar from the front of the rack in squats, asinine. I think that that's just ridiculous. You should be allowed to do that. It's just comfortable. It's safe. Like I'm telling you, like when you're Jesus and you're 400 fucking pounds, you know how uncomfortable it is to get out from under over 1,000 pounds after you just balled yourself up super tight here. I mean, it's just some of these things. It's like, have you lifted? Have you done anything? You know. But anyway, yeah. So that's that. What other rules are there? I'm forgetting them now. But yeah, needless to say, like I'm not super happy about the rules. At the same time, it's my job to adapt to them and to execute. And if changes are made, fine. So I say all these things, guys. This is my very, very biased opinion. At the same time, suck it up and deal with it. You voluntarily chose to pay your dues to this federation. I chose to be a member of the IPF. I choose to compete. Nobody's forcing me to do it. If I'm gonna complain about it that much, if I hate it that much, then I should just fucking leave, right? But I don't think that that's the right thing to do. If I really care about it that much, I should try to affect change. Now, personally, I don't see, I'm too busy. I'm too busy to bother myself with having to try to become basically like a paid staff member and then work my way up, and however the system works, guys. Like I leave that to the people who genuinely want to do that. For me personally, I may not like the rules, but now it's what I have to live with. And so it is what it is. If it gets so bad that I can't even really compete, then yeah, then I'll find a different solution. I'll create a different solution, fine. But I don't think it's at that point yet. And so I say all that to say, again, like, yes, I sound complainy and whiny, but it's just because we're talking about the rules. The truth of it is, I'm not in this to be that guy who's gonna bitch and moan, but then not do anything about it. I'm telling you right now, my job as an athlete, your job as an athlete is to execute and is to adapt to the standard. It's that simple. It's just what it is. If we can create change in the sport, great, you know, turn the rules around, whatever it is, great. And we can be a part of that. I would much rather institute the technology that allows us to judge things more accurately, with a little bit of grace, of course, but more accurately than be the guy who's, you know, gonna try and like vote into office and shit like that. Like that's just not, I'm not interested in that. So yeah, so my 2 cents there is the rules aren't great, but at the end of the day, they are our rules. We do support this federation. I want to see the sport grow. And I can tell you right now, pulling out of it is not going to help. There's also nowhere else to go, guys. There's nowhere else to go. I see all these people saying like, oh, you should really try and fucking find a different federation, whatever. It doesn't work like that. It does not work like that, all right? So there's really nowhere else to go. I do want to make sure I mention before we go, everyone in the IPF, I shouldn't say everyone, a lot of people in the IPF, referees, the international judges, the people who run everything, the people who organize everything, people from all of the member federations, like people are working their asses off to produce really, really high quality events and a high quality experience for all of the athletes. I see that. I can name at least 5 individual people right now between Powerlifting America and the IPF internationally who genuinely want the best for the sport and are working their ass off to do that. At least 5. Most of the people are really doing everything they can to make sure that the experience is great. And so I don't want people to allow things like these rule changes and stuff to taint the perspective of the IPF as a whole, because it's unfair to all of the people who are working their ass off to make the IPF what it is, you know, and who are working their ass off to give athletes the opportunity to become world champions and do so in a legitimate, professional way, standardized way. And I just don't want to discount that, because that's the truth. You know, we can't allow poor decision-making from 1 or 2 people or from leadership or whatever. We can't allow that to be a reflection and then influence our perception of all the hardworking people below that and the people who are really actually trying to make ends meet when it comes to putting together really good competitions, you know? So anyway, that's my 2 cents there. Nationals is 8 weeks away. I'd be lying if I told you that training was going great. Honestly, this whole past training year, I feel like was a wash. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and fucking moan about it, but the truth is, you know, it's unacceptable the way training has gone for the past year. You know, it is what it is, but I've been in this position before, more times than I should have been, but I've been in this position before, and we just dig our heels in and we fucking, through sheer grit and will, we get to the platform and we win. You You know, I literally have been in this position before, this exact position, multiple competitions, almost every competition I've had since like 2021, I've been in this position where training is shit, my body is shit, everything is shit. And I have to fucking find it in me, find that fifth gear and just crank that shit all the way. And just through, like when I tell you through sheer will, put weight on the bar and lift it, period. And I'm leaning on God, man. I really am. You know, I don't get to control the outcome. There's a lot of externals that are outside of my control. But what I will say is I am in control of my effort, and I'm going to give 110% no matter what it is. And I got to be accountable, man. There's things that I can do that I think can make a big difference moving forward. One of the ones is actually stretching, believe it or not, like taking my recovery a little bit more seriously. I've never been the one to stretch or do saunas or hot yoga. I don't do PTs. I don't get massages. I don't do any of that stuff. Truthfully, like I just can't afford it. Like I do so many other things that I try to grow my business in so many ways, and I'm doing the acting, I'm doing the public speaking. We have the chalk company, plus some of these things that have to do with training and content. Like to spend, you know, $500 to $1,000 a month on massages and stuff is like, dude, I don't have the room for that right now, you know. So that's another reason why I don't really do it, but it's not an excuse. So I'm trying 3 times a week as of the new year, whether it be hot yoga classes or just taking the 20 minutes to stretch after sessions. Obviously, my cardio has always been a part of my recovery routine as well. But the stretching will be a new one. I will try and get into a sauna a few times a week as well. So yeah, there's some changes and there's other things as well, but there's some changes that I'm planning on making to really make sure that we are leaving no stone unturned. And it's that simple. But I have every intention of winning at nationals. Every intention. I mean, that's why I'm here. It's the only reason why I'm here is to win, period. I'm not here to have fun, period. So the goal is to win nationals and win worlds. And my prediction is it will take a 945 total to win nationals. I truly believe 2026 will be my best year yet. I have never grown as much as I have than I did in 2025. I mean, so much stuff, dude. Like between my grandfather dying, I got probably some of the hardest news I've ever gotten in my life, and I've gotten some pretty hard news over my life, from someone very, very close to me about something that, you know, had happened to them for a long time. I got that. That was crazy. And then losing nationals, things with my business, simply not working out, losing tons and tons and tons of money. I mean, talking about thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars in some cases. Yeah, man. I mean, lots of mountains I've tried to climb, and I get close, and then a big boulder comes and fucking wrecks me, and then I come tumbling down the mountain. But we keep getting up, man. We keep getting up. You have to. What's the alternative? To just fucking quit and give up? Like, you're gonna die anyway one day. You might as well give 100%. You might as well give your best effort. Also, there's people watching you, guys. I have 3 younger siblings. 3 younger siblings. Even if not a single person watches this video, I know that my actions speak louder than my words. And so my brothers are watching me. They're seeing how I respond to adversity. They're studying me, whether they know it or not. They're learning from me, whether I realize it or not. They're learning, what do you do when you fail? Not just fail, but fail in front of thousands after years of trying. How does a man react to that? How does a man respond to that? How does he pick himself up? Does he pick himself up? My sister is watching how I treat the women in my life, right? My girlfriend, my mom, and my sister's learning how she should be treated in her relationships, what she should be looking for. You know, my sister is learning from me. What does it take to succeed? What does it take to go after what you want? You know, so as the older brother, like I have the burden of going first. I have the burden of carving the path. But I mean, fuck, dude, like I romanticize the hero's journey. So I'll be damned if I sit here and complain about the fact that that's what I'm on. And by the way, we are all on that. And that's the awakening, is that you are the hero in your journey. You can have guides. You'll have villagers that pass by. You know, maybe other people who help you along your path, but only you can walk it. So that's what we're here for. We don't give up. We keep going no matter how hard it fucking gets until God says, you're done. We keep going. You know? You can improve. You can audit. Make changes, absolutely. But you got to keep going. Keep breathing. Just keep fucking breathing. Sometimes that's all you can do is breathe, but you just got to keep breathing, keep breathing, keep breathing. And it's easier said than done. It's easy to say this now in the comfort of my own home, you know, after just having a nice meal, you know, getting off a call with a new client. Like, yeah, I feel, you know, better. But when the chips are down, when things aren't going well, when your environment is chaos, that's when it really matters. And I encourage you, this was my theme for 2025. It took me until the end of 2025 to get to this point, which is to lean into God, to lean into your faith. It got hard? Good, it should. That's what you asked for. You wanted to get better, you wanted to grow. Of course it's gonna be hard. Of course it's gonna be challenging. Of course other people aren't gonna look at you and think, oh my God, like, look at him, he's doing amazing. How? Who points at the ground, a seed that's been buried, and says, wow, look how big that tree is? It's not even a fucking tree yet. They point when it's been blossomed, when it's grown, right? But you don't realize that your greatness is a seed planted within you. Guess what it takes to grow that? Guess how long it takes to grow that? Yeah, you get some sun. We all love the sun, but you're gonna deal with rain, wind, mud, all of it. Fucking animals pecking at you and shit. That's what it takes. But this is what we asked for, and this is our purpose, is to grow. I'm going off here, but anyway, I appreciate everybody who tunes in. I'm very excited to be uploading way more frequently. That's why I got the Osmo Pocket 3, so I can basically film a training vlog almost every single day if I can. And yeah, man, I'm very, very excited for the year to come. I genuinely believe it will be my best year yet. So we grew a lot last year, and we're leaning in. You got to lean in, man. You got to lean in. Yeah. All right. See you in the next YouTube video. Peace.